Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our public webinar that we're holding this morning on the People at Work Psychosocial Risk Assessment Tool. My name is Jason Mavrikis. I'm a Work Health Safety Advisor with the education team at SafeWork SA, and I'm here this morning with my colleague Jill Thomas, who is the team leader of the Psychosocial and Industrial team at SafeWork SA. This morning, we will begin with a presentation, an overview of the People at Work tool, what it consists of, how it's structured, etc. And then we will move on to part two, where we'll hold a live demonstration of the People at Work platform, including the survey itself and the supporting resources. So welcome to you all, and thanks for dialing in this morning. It's great to be with you. And please stand by while we fire up the presentation to kick off. In terms of psychological health in the workplace, we know that 91% of Australian employees believe that mental health in their workplace is important, but what we see is that just over half of those people believe their workplace is mentally healthy, indicating that there is still quite a bit of work to do. Almost 50% of employees have left a workplace due to a poor mental health environment, while 60% of employees working in a mentally healthy workplace were more committed to their job. And so there's clearly some benefits there. We know, particularly since COVID-19, that mental health concerns have increased from 20 to 30%. And this is something that is likely to further increase. We also know that businesses receive an average return on investment of $2.30 for every $1 spent on effective workplace mental health strategies, which makes for a compelling business case and a mutually beneficial outcome for employers and their employees. So what is People at Work? People at Work is Australia's only validated evidence-based psychosocial risk assessment tool, which also has benchmarking. People at Work is more than just the survey. It's a robust process that features detailed information on psychosocial hazards and factors, as well as many detailed supporting resources. People at Work is based upon a 5-step process to identify, assess, and control risks to psychological health at work. This includes preparing the workplace, conducting the survey, understanding your results, taking action, and improving. The tool is designed for medium to large size organizations. It is suitable for businesses with more than 20 employees. It is now nationally available via a newly launched digital platform that we're going to have a bit of a look at today. And this includes the aforementioned suite of resources, interactive learning modules, and custom reports, all for free. The People at Work project kicked off in 2007 as a collaborative research project between the University of Queensland, the Australian National University, and Work Health and Safety Queensland. The overall aim was to develop a validated psychosocial risk assessment tool. The tool has been on a journey from 2007 and has transitioned from a 40-minute paper-based survey to a 10 to 15-minute online tool that automatically generates your organisation a custom report. The new digital platform project was led by Work Health Safety Queensland And in collaboration with representatives from the Australian work health safety regulators that you can see on the screen, we have been working with our colleagues over the past few years to create the digital version of the tool, which was launched nationally on the 26th of February, 2021. In terms of what the digital system solution actually looks like, it is accessible via mobile devices, tablets, and your typical desktop computer or laptop, allowing workplaces to work through the 5-step people at work process as outlined by the circular diagram. Again, the platform features a number of supporting resources, industry benchmarking, the survey itself, as well as 2 types of custom reports that are automatically generated and tailored for your organization. There are a number of different benefits from running people at work. Firstly, it helps workplaces comply with their health and safety duties. It assists with the management of work-related psychosocial hazards and factors and the prevention of psychological harm. It provides a consulting mechanism for engaging with workers in relation to psychological health and safety. We know as well that its use is likely to result in the reduction of workers' compensation claims relating to psychological health. It has the potential to improve worker productivity, satisfaction, and engagement. And the use of people at work sends a clear message to workers that the workplace values their psychological health and safety, and that it is taking steps to address it in a proactive manner. In terms of what people at work measures, there are a number of different categories of factors in the survey itself, as you can see on the screen. It looks at job demands and job resources, covering a range of psychosocial hazards, which are factors in the design or management of work that increase the risk of work-related stress, which can then lead to psychological or physical harm. It also looks at psychological health outcomes such as burnout, psychological distress, sprains and strains, and worker intentions. And whilst there are engagement or culture surveys that may include some psychosocial hazards and factors, such as work demands and support from managers, they are typically examined in less detail as compared to the People at Work survey, and generally do not include all of the aforementioned factors. There are optional or elective modules that the survey coordinator can choose to include in the survey, depending on the needs of the organisation, but the majority are core modules that cannot be removed. And please note that survey questions cannot be added to the survey, as this will disrupt the psychometric properties of the tool. However, you can add 3 demographic questions about work groups, roles, and locations, which you can customize to your workplace. Thank you for your attention. That was part 1 of our People at Work public webinar today. Please stand by for part 2, where we'll have a bit of a look at the portal, and we will provide a demonstration, as I mentioned earlier, of the survey itself and the supporting resources. However, before we move on, we have a brief animated promotional video that I'll now play, which summarizes the tool's key features. Hi everyone, I'm back. We are back. As I mentioned earlier, we now have a demonstration of the new digital platform that's been developed and launched, and I'll take you through a bit of a demo of the portal. So please stand by while we fire that up. Okay, great. All right, so as you can see here, this is the landing page. This is the People at Work platform, the new digital version of the tool. When you log on to www.peopleatwork.gov.au, you'll find that the tiles here in front of you are a bit different to what they will look like once you've actually created your account and logged into the portal. So currently you can see there, that tile, create your account, that's hyperlinked. If you were to click on that, it would step you through the process of inputting the organization's details and setting up the account. And then you would log in and commence setting up the survey itself. So as I mentioned, I've already set up the account. So I'm going to log in to the portal. Okay, so now that I've logged in, as I mentioned earlier, you can see that the tiles on the desktop have changed. So earlier, in the top left-hand corner of the tiles here in the center of the screen, it previously said create your account. Now that I've logged in, it says create your survey, and we'll go into that in a few moments. In the top right-hand corner, you can see I've logged in, and it now displays my name and my title. As I said before, People at Work is based upon a 5-step process, with the survey being at the heart of that process. You can click on each step of the process along the way, and you will discover information that is relevant to each of those steps. So, for example, if I hover over and click into People at Work process, which is one of the menu options at the top of the page, you can see here the 5 steps that make up the People at Work survey. So to begin with, I'll click on the first step, preparing the workplace. And actually that's what it defaults to immediately. So we're already on preparing the workplace. Here we are. And you can see there's a bit of an overview, bit of a summary as to what that consists of. And what you'll see, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll find some fantastic supporting resources, which will help you in terms of undertaking step 1, preparing the workplace. So we have a guide on managing the People at Work process. We have a guide on developing your organizational communications plan that includes such things as email templates to staff. There are promotional posters. There's a document containing answers to frequently asked questions for participants. There's a project implementation timeline that you can use to support the rollout. And there's a link to a learning module on implementing the People at Work process. And just as a general comment, you know, in terms of my own personal view, one of the great steps forward in terms of the digitization of the tool are the supporting resources. They really are fantastic. They're user-friendly, easy to follow, and you'll find them at the bottom of each page under each step, and they're contained in PDF and Word document form for easy downloading. So very useful, user-friendly guidance there. So if we scroll back up to the top of the page, these steps here, they are all hyperlinked. So the process steps are there and they're also hyperlinked here. So if we click on to step 2, which is conducting the survey, again, a bit of a summary as to how to conduct the survey itself, creating the survey, how to conduct it, and then the supporting resources linking into that step at the bottom of the page. Again, with step 3, understanding your result, talks about the people at work reports that are generated. So there are 2 types of reports. One is a condensed snapshot overview report that will consist of 4 or so pages, and the other is a high-level comprehensive report that will go into great detail, and we'll have a bit of a look at that in a minute. Talks about focus groups, which is a way of understanding and interpreting the results and then formulating future action as to what perhaps control measures may be implemented, etc. And there's a focus group guide covering off on that. As you can see here, at the bottom of the page of step 3, understanding your result, these are the resources in support of that step. So I mentioned the 2 types of reports. There's the comprehensive report there, there's a sample report, there's a sample overview report, downloading and interpreting your results, how to do that, and then the focus group guide. So while we're here, let's have a look at the 2 types of reports. So we'll start with the sample overview report, which is a PDF. And I'm going to open that up. It's just downloaded it for me. Open. And here you can see the snapshot overview report. So a bit of a summary about people at work. A look at the overall results. A breakdown of the results in relation to job demands and job resources. And you can see the black line there that charts the benchmarking data. And then on the 3rd page there, we have a look at workplace bullying, work-related violence, and then a look at the psychological health outcomes. So burnout, sprain and strain, worker intentions, and psychological distress. So as I said, that's the snapshot overview report, a condensed look at the organization's results. Now let's have a look at the sample comprehensive report. I've clicked on that, that's downloaded the PDF. I'm now going to open it. Okay, so this is the comprehensive report. There's the title page. It is a sample report. Here is the contents. And as you can see, it is much more in depth when compared to the overview report. There's an executive summary. There's an introduction to the People at Work tool, survey background. So it talks about the actual People at Work project that led to the tool, and then some advice on understanding the report, your response rate, overall results, job demands, job resources. Workplace bullying, work-related violence and aggression, psychological health outcomes, conclusions and next steps, group breakdowns, and a glossary. So as you can see, the executive summary is quite useful. It provides an overview of the areas of strength, areas for improvement, other areas for action, and then next steps. There's the job demands, job resources model, which is a model of worker wellbeing, which many of you would be familiar with. And it goes on. We won't go through it all because this sample report is a good 30 odd pages. Oh no, it's a great many more. It's in fact 73 pages long. So it is quite detailed, and the length will vary depending on the organization's results and what they consist of. So but it is the high level, finer detail version of the two reports. So we'll close that now. All right, we'll click on step 4, taking action. So as you can see, a bit of an overview as to action planning in terms of documenting the activities and strategies that you will implement in managing the psychosocial hazards and factors in the workplace. And these are the supporting resources. So there's an action planning guide, there's some example control measures, and some guidance on taking action and implementing the control measures. And we'll click on step 5, reviewing and improving. A bit of a summary there, and the supporting resources at the bottom of the page. So guidance for conducting evaluations, reviewing and improving tool, and how to examine and interrogate workplace data. Okay, so a great feature of the tool, as I mentioned, are the learning modules. So we'll click on the learning modules tab, which is found at the top of the page. And here we go. So this is an interactive electronic learning feature. And if you were to click on each of these hyperlinked tabs, it would take you to an interactive learning module covering off on that relevant content. So for example, if we click on mentally healthy workplaces and integrated approach, we'll go into that in a sec. I should just note that here there are some instructions on how to use the interactive learning module. So we'll click on that first tile, and that's going to load up for us. And here we go, a bit of an introduction to the integrated approach, what that consists of and how it relates to people at work. We won't go into it now, but it is, I can assure you, very user-friendly. There are images, some animation, some audio, etc., and it really does help absorb the real intention of people at work and how the organisation can make the most of it. So go back to the main menu here by clicking on this link. Which is not loading, so that's fine. We will close that page and we'll come back to the main page. All right, so now let's have a look at the resources tab for a second, which is a summary of all of the resources that we've looked at so far. So all of those hyperlinked resources at the bottom of each steps page. This is a summary of them all, but broken down into categories. So learning resources, resources on the people at work process, workplace specific resources, and then resources for workers. So we'll click on learning resources and just have a quick look there. Okay, so when it looks as though, and I recall this now, when you click on one of those 4 options, it will take you to, say we clicked on learning resources, to the overall learning resources, but then it's broken down into categories and they're all contained on the one page. So that's fine. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the survey itself. So we'll go back to the home page and we'll click onto the My Surveys tab here. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I have previously set up a survey just to show you what it looks like on this page, on the surveys page. So this is a test survey that I set up recently that's yet to be closed. As you can see, the status is in green. It means that it's in progress, although it's not yet been sent out to respondents, and thus the response rate is nil. I started it on the 9th, and it's due to end 9 weeks later, which is the total window of opportunity for respondents to participate in the survey. And so that spans out to the 11th of June. So I'm going to view that survey just to close it. Okay, so that's now closed. and I'm going to create a survey. Okay, so now I'm going to step you through the process of creating a survey. So we will enter in the survey name, April test, and we're going to call it 404. We're going to send the survey to 50 workers. And as you can see, the status is draft, and it will remain so until I have activated the survey, which won't take place until we've completed all of the necessary fields. So now we'll click Save and Next. Okay, so here in the second tab of the survey, we have the elective modules. So we have sprains and strains. So the module examines sprains and strains in the workplace, which are a common workplace injury and can occur suddenly or from gradual wear and tear. Worker intentions, so that module examines whether or not workers intend to resign from their job, transfer jobs, take sick leave, or seek medical advice due to stress, and work-related violence and aggression. For the purposes of this demonstration, we will select sprain and strains. Okay, so as you can see, once I've selected that elective module, the total number of questions down the bottom here under the summary heading will change. So if I unselect that, the total number of questions drops to 86, and when I add it back in, it increases to 90, and thus the estimated time for completion will also change. We will save and next. Demographics, in the last 4 weeks, have you worked in shifts as part of your work? Do you work in fly in, fly out, or drive in, drive out? In the last 4 weeks, approximately how frequently have you worked away from your primary work location? Are you of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander origin? For the purposes of this demonstration, I will select that we have worked fly in, fly out recently. And perhaps that in the last 4 weeks, we have worked away from our primary work location. And again, total number of questions changes, as does the estimated time for completion. So save and next. Here we have the custom demographic questions, which I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to add in locations and sites. So head office, regional site 1, regional site 2. I think that'll do. Roles, okay, so we're going to add in administrative, if I could spell the word correctly. I do know how to spell administrative, I assure you. Administrative officer, licensing officer, information officer, advisor, inspector. Okay. Also my typing that needs work, but that's okay. All right, so we've added those in, and now we'll add in work groups. So we'll make our work groups team-based. So we will put in the construction team, the investigation team, the manufacturing team, and the psychosocial team. Okay, as you can see, the total number of questions has been increased, as has the estimated time to completion. So we've added in those custom demographic questions, and now we'll save and finalize. Okay, so now this is the summary page of the survey. So we've got the survey name, the status is still draft because we're just on the cusp of activating it. We intend to send it to 50 workers. And as you can see, the system has now generated a unique URL. Now this URL will need to be copied and pasted into an email, perhaps with a template, of which, as I mentioned earlier, there are template examples in some of the guidance material, or you could author your own. You would grab that URL, put it into the email, send it to the organization's respondents, participants, and then they would open that email, click on the URL, and the survey would load up. They would complete the survey, and then the results would be absorbed into the system and processed. So as you can see, this URL is quite lengthy. And just as a practical tip, there are a number of tools that you can download or use on the internet that will actually shorten that URL for you to make it a bit more palatable. So I'm going to click on Activate Survey. Well, we'll copy the URL first, and then we'll activate the survey. So it's saying a system generated a notification saying that once activated, you will not be able to make any changes to the survey once you activate it. Do I want to continue? Yes, I do. Okay, so the survey is activated, and now you can see beneath the status box, it says quite clearly that it is in progress. Okay, very good. So if we go back to the surveys page, we can see now, here we go, April test 404. This is the survey that we've just created. It's green, its status is in progress. Nobody's responded yet because we've yet to provide the respondents with the URL. But once they have responded, we can view the survey to track how it's progressing. Okay. So that's a quick overview as to how you would go about setting up the survey itself. We've had a look at the supporting resources, the learning module, and just to note that this frequently asked questions document really is quite useful. So frequently asked questions about people at work broadly, frequently asked questions on account creation, frequently asked questions on survey creation, survey implementation, results and reporting, confidentiality, psychological health and safety broadly, the online learning modules, and if you wish to contact your relevant state or territory safety regulator, you would click on this and it would take you to our contact details. For inquiries within South Australia, that would come through to either Jill or I, and then we would do our best to assist you with your inquiry. That's about it for the time being. Please stand by while we respond to some questions that we've received from webinar participants. Hi everyone, we're back with our People at Work public webinar. We're at the tail end of the webinar now. In part one, we provided you with an overview presentation of the tool in terms of its structure and content. And then we had a bit of a look at the new digital platform where I took you through the guidance material and set up a survey and provided you with some guidance on how to do that yourselves. We've received a number of questions from webinar participants, and we've selected 3 that we'll provide a response to now. Because we were overwhelmed with questions, we can't respond to them all due to time constraints, but the top 3 that we've selected are as follows. So the question was asked, who owns the intellectual property, the IP for People at Work? So in short, the People at Work platform, which is www.peopleatwork.gov.au, and all associated resources, excluding the People at Work survey tool, are owned and operated by the state of Queensland, acting through their Office of Industrial Relations. The Office of Industrial Relations has a non-exclusive license to use the survey tool for non-commercial purposes. The survey itself is the IP of the original research group who created People at Work, with some question sets belonging to other parties. And the participants in that research project are listed on the website. Another question, which is a very important one, where can I find a copy of the survey questions? So there is actually a copy of the People at Work paper survey that includes all of the survey questions, and it's one of the resources on the website. And it can be found on the POR platform, the website, under step 2, conducting your survey. You'll find a document there amongst the resources that contains all of the survey questions for you to have a look at in advance of running the survey. The third question that we have taken and provided a response to is as follows. How was the People at Work benchmark created? The current benchmarking in the system was developed in later parts of the People at Work project over multiple years following the survey validation. A national normative database was able to be created, including the responses from 79 Australian organisations and 11,890 worker responses across different locations, sectors, industries, and occupations. This database allowed the establishment of the national benchmarks. Please note that these benchmarks are not aspirational benchmarks, but merely reflect the average levels of the psychosocial risk factors across other Australian organisations. In terms of future benchmarking, de-identified data is able to be extracted from the system with industry, sector, and state territory information, which will enable updated benchmarks to be added to the system in the future. So they're the 3 questions that we received, well, amongst many others that we chose to provide a response to. We can't respond to them all due to time constraints, as I said earlier, but thank you very much for sending them in. Now I'll offer an opportunity to Jill Thomas, team leader of our SafeWork SA psychosocial and industrial team. Jill, if you could perhaps give us some insight into the regulator's perspective and view of People at Work.
Yep.
and how businesses might make use of it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Yes, now Jason's role in SafeWork SA comes from the advisory perspective, but as the team leader of the psychosocial and industrial team, we're on the regulator side, and I just want to convey to both PCPUs and workers the value of utilising something like the POR online survey tool, because our inspectors look into how a workplace will identify, address psychological hazards in their workplaces, and if they have utilised something like the POR online tool, that will go a long way towards showing to us that they're trying to address these sorts of issues in their workplace, because it only involves the consultation with workers and covers what is these days, of course, a very topical subject of the psychosocial issues that are experienced in workplaces. The range of resources available via when you access the online survey and tool provide valuable information, and not only, and whilst the tool is only really, or the survey can only be done by workplaces that have 20 or more workers, all these other resources are available for anyone who wants to access the site, and can of course be utilised in much smaller workplaces, because we understand smaller workplaces still have these sort of issues and still want to address them, but this tool of course is only available to utilise the survey part of it if they have 20 or more workers. So you know, as the regulator side, we want to stress that it's not enough just to have policies and procedures on their own in the workplace, you've got to be able to back it up with are those policies and procedures being utilised correctly, and if there's something like the poor tool being utilised, it will of course supplement any workplace behaviours type policies and procedures that a workplace might have. So I just want to stress once again and encourage any workplace to utilise this tool, because it's free, it's valuable, it's very topical, and it'll be most worthwhile to utilise and of benefit to not only the PCBU but all the workers as well, so they get to have a say, and it'll be most worthwhile and strongly encouraged. Okay, so back to Jason.
Great. Thank you very much, Jill. It's very useful and interesting to get the regulator's perspective on people at work. So in conclusion, we'd like to thank you all for your attendance for our public webinar on people at work. We hope that you've gotten something out of it. We hope that you at least have a better understanding of the tool, its content and structure, and how it can be used. And we wish you all the best of luck if you do decide to use the tool within your organisation. Jill and I would be happy to respond to any inquiries that you have if you are a business within South Australia. Otherwise, the contact details of the relevant state or territory regulator can be found on the website. Thanks again for your attention, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.